Happy Thursday. We're almost there, folks. Another week in the books. If you're in the audience and you're in Northern California, I'm guessing if you're anywhere in the country, you're sick of this heat wave. I don't blame you if you're going nuts about it. I apologize. The reason why I bring it up is because for the last 2 days we haven't had a show because my house turns into a sweltering oven because I'm like, I don't have air conditioning. So I apologize to complain and make this a bitch session. The point is, I'm back. Thanks for being okay with me being gone for a couple days there. It's Thursday, and there's a lot to get to with the Golden State Warriors. Let's get to it. We got Stephen Curry's recent comments from an interview with Anscape. We've got Draymond Green's recent comments on a podcast pertaining to his role with the Warriors, the input he provides on trades. I'm going to bring up the fact that the Warriors might have completely blown a move pertaining to assistant coaches. There is a media rights war going on with the NBA. I'm going to explain what I mean with all of it. Sit back, relax. Let's get into it. It's the Golden Days.
That is it for us today, and we will leave you with I can't do it. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. And things suck. Woo! Let's go.
In a minute, I'ma need a sentimental man or woman to pump me up. Come on and break me off. Cause I get what I want and I like what I see.
Oh, here we go, baby. No more whining. That was it. We're almost Friday. What is the app? Bring it, dumb nation. Here we go. Thank you, and welcome to the Golden Days, and I apologize for the bitch session there for 2 seconds. Honest to God, man, my house does not have AC, and the last 2 days, every time I was about to get going on a show, all of a sudden, I'm like literally just coked in sweat, drenched in sweat, whatever, and just would not have resulted in good optics. And I don't know about you folks, but when you're just hot and you feel disgusting from sweating, just sitting there, yeah, I don't get in a good mood over it, and it wasn't going to result in a good product. I also want to bid adieu. This was definitely the last show with Bill O'Reilly opening things up. I've milked that for over a month. You will not have to put up with Bill O'Reilly anymore. I tried to update and upload the new open for the show, but I could not finish the production in time. So on tomorrow's show, or maybe next week, tomorrow I'm going to be on with Damon Bruce. We're going to be doing a dual stream at 11 a.m. Pacific time, but we run off his set. So the next time you hear a show open, Bill O'Reilly will not be in it. So I apologize for that if by some chance his voice annoyed you. That's an old school reference, kind of an inside joke why I even had that in the open of the program. Welcome, everybody. And if you watch this show because you love the Golden State Warriors, I've got a lot for you. Before we get started, though, got to give some love to our official sponsor, and that's Bet Online. Bet Online is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. Bet Online has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. And when the game's over, head on over to the online casino. Get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use the promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet Online, the game starts here. And you can follow me online on Threads at Dog Wild. Same handle for Instagram. I'm over on Elon's cesspool of a platform. You can follow me there if you want at Surf Journalist, but you'll have much better luck getting my attention over on Threads and Instagram. And yeah, Dan Smiley or Smiley Dan, I apologize for the whining at the beginning of the show about the heat. But again, everyone I'm talking to is losing their minds over this. Today was the first time we had a dip in the temperatures, and I got to get air conditioning. That's my project for next summer. But in the meantime, let's talk Warriors. Oh, and Rockin' New Era 84 is asking if I'm going to be at Plus Mania on Sunday. Yeah, I'm going to be there. So I hope to meet some of you folks over the Dubliner. Damon and I will talk about it tomorrow. We'll promote it. Um, Shane West, you've been with me for like 3 years now, because I remember you at the very beginning of my days over at the other show, where we were cracking jokes about Built and those Built bars. Although they weren't sponsoring us near the end there, but regardless, good call mentioning and advising to save the saliva for some Built bars. Anyways, Stephen Curry was interviewed recently by Mark Spears of ESPN, and I hope to have Mark on this program soon. A Hall of Fame journalist. He's been covering the NBA for a very long time. And he interviewed Stephen Curry. I don't know if the interview took place in London or in Paris. The Olympics around the corner. Side note, every U.S. men's basketball game will immediately follow with a live show here. So in terms of appointment programming, you know where to find us after every men's basketball game. Team USA, the action starts, I believe, July 28th in 3 days. So the day of Plusmania. Anyways, but so regardless, catch us after every Team USA game. We'll be live right here talking about that. And I want to talk about Steph, though, because he was interviewed again by Mark Spears. And the interview was part of Andscape. It's one of the properties of ESPN, and I believe Mark is the editor-in-chief of that website. And he asked this question of Stephen Curry. And the question went like this. You saw the type of lackluster teams that Kobe Bryant and Dirk Nowitzki, let me share my screen here real fast so you can at least, if you're watching this on YouTube, you could follow along. So again, you saw the type of lackluster teams that Kobe Bryant and Dirk Nowitzki had at the end of their careers while staying for one team. Should we not assume that you'll be fine playing with just anyone during the rest of your career playing solely for the Warriors? To rephrase that, to simplify the question, he's basically asking, Steph, are you cool with finishing your career the way Kobe and Dirk did, with these awful teams surrounded by young players in the middle of a rebuild, where these teams are basically using you for marketing purposes so that they could have this piss poor product on the court, yet knowing they had this one superstar at the end of his career that fans loved? Those franchises knew they can milk that individual, still be making money via ticket sales, via attention for TVs, for screens, for devices. And Steph's answer was, it's tough, right? I've always said I want to be a Warrior for life. At this stage in my career, I feel like that's possible. And you can still be a competitive. It doesn't mean you're guaranteed the championship. It doesn't mean winning. Winning is always a priority, but obviously you're realistic. It doesn't mean that it's going to happen if you stay the course. You need to shake things up. You need to keep reimagining what it looks like to evolve with what league is at right now, with where some of these talented teams are now. I'm taking it one step at a time, to be honest. I think that's the only way that will protect my happiness. Also, it allows me to enjoy being myself when I'm out there playing, and I'll continue to make the decisions that are best for me and for my career at the end of the day when it comes to just the imagination. I want to win. Let's put it this way. It's a long-winded way of saying that if it is a situation where you're a bottom feeder and it's just because you want to stay there, I'd have a hard time with that. But I don't think that's going to be the reality, unquote. Steph is basically saying, I'm not sitting here telling the Warriors I'm going to stay no matter what. And I love the messaging, because what he's basically telling Joe Lacob and company, and the great news is the Warriors have an owner who wants to win. All right. Joe Lacob has never given any indication that he's fine settling for a mediocre product, that he's okay with rolling Steph's corpse out there so we can see him finish his career with the Warriors while the team rebuilds around him. Right. Again, I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again, There is a very strong possibility these are the final 2 years of Stephen Curry's career. Not with the Warriors, period, as an NBA player. Before Tom Brady, before LeBron James, the whole idea of athletes continuing on into their 40s was ridiculous. It was a fantasy. There were exceptions, obviously. Casey Stern, I think it was Casey, he brought up Nolan Ryan. Gordie Howe had a really long career. That dude, talk about old man strength, was going at it forever. But ultimately, athletes, when they start pushing 40, it's over. 40 is old. There's no way to spin it. And with Steph, he's done everything he needs to do. There's nothing left for him, especially if he gets Olympic gold. There is nothing left for him to accomplish. Do I personally, selfishly want to see him get 5? Hell yeah. For no other reason in terms of legacy. I want to boast. I want to be the guy who's super old at the bar yelling at everyone else, F you, Steph was the GOAT of point guards. Steph is on the Mount Rushmore of all-time great players. I want those bragging rights. I'm not ashamed to admit that. That's my selfish want and need. So, just regardless of that pursuit, though, Stephen Curry, if he's going to keep playing after this contract's up, in other words, if he signs a 1-year extension, which he's currently eligible for, he's going to be playing for the Warriors until he's 39. That's old. He's got a family of 4. He has a wife that he actually loves. He's got children that I'm guessing he actually loves. He's got a burgeoning media career. I think he's going to be, and we haven't even talked about this, and we will soon, but he's about to be an actor, as far as I know, which is incredible in and of itself. And bottom line is, like, there's a very strong possibility these are the final 2 years of Stephen Curry's career with the Warriors. If he doesn't sign that extension, I think that's all the evidence you need. There is no good reason for him to not sign that if he doesn't have plans to retire. But this team has got to surround him with enough talent to make this a legitimate shot. And this leads to the next part of the show, Draymond Green, the Robin to Stephen Curry's Batman. Now, Draymond Green made some very interesting comments. And these comments were shared on a program called Club 520 or 520. I apologize for not knowing what the proper enunciation is there, what the proper nomenclature is. To summarize, though, this is Jeff Teague's podcast. He's got some 2 lively co-hosts with him who actually know how to communicate and bring the energy to a program. It's a good show. I wanted to commend the program that Draymond was on. But Draymond, in this recent guest appearance, and I imagine this took place somewhere within the last week, but this was a very revealing answer to a question pertaining to the impact of Klay Thompson's departure. And then Draymond decided to be very forthright and talk about his inclusion with trade discussions. In other words, the team is going to him to get input for prospective deals. He revealed that and so much more in this clip. And why don't we hear from Draymond Green? This is about 1:45 in length total. Again, this was from his appearance on a program called Club, is it 520? Is it Club 520? I don't know what they call it. I don't know what the 520 is in reference to either. But regardless, this was Draymond on that program talking about his feelings regarding regarding Klay Thompson leaving. And I think more importantly, just how much power and sway he has with the Warriors. I also love when you hear this. You're also going to, I love this. I don't know if you will, but I love the fact that he's at least, I don't know if it's genuine or not, but he does seem to have empathy for the organization he spent his whole life with, right? We talked about Stephen Curry being a lifer. Draymond Green's right behind him. And it would be very sweet to have both Steph and Dre finish their careers together with the Golden State Warriors. With Draymond being Steph's de facto enforcer, again, the Robin, the sidekick. So here is Draymond talking about Klay Thompson leaving and a potential trade that he himself was involved in that he shut down. Let's take a listen.
For the organization, I think it was time for the organization. Like, we've been in the tax for 6 straight years. Mm-hmm. Nobody talk about that side of, you know what I'm saying? Like, Klay left. We not in the tax no more. The organization get a chance to reset because at the end of the day, regardless of how uneasy he was last year, regardless of how bothered he was, we built that organization.
That's a fact.
Right? That organization was the laughing stock of the NBA.
That's a fact, bro.
And so in doing what we've done, there's still a care for the organization. Like, we was just about to make some trades last week. And I told them straight up, like, yo, that trade helped me. Like, it'll help me right now in my career these last couple of years and stuff. But I've always spoke to y'all from a place of what's best for this organization. I won't stop now.
Yeah.
That's a bad trade. Like, don't do that trade. Like, I disagree with it, although it's going to help me right now.
Yeah.
And so what Klay just did, and nobody will give him credit for, what Klay just did is he just relieved this organization of the financial hardships that the organization was starting to face. Right?
Yeah.
You're still doing for the organization.
Yep.
But nobody will say that. Nobody will say him leaving because they'll only make it about, he was unhappy, which, again, he wasn't the happiest last year. But by the way, you've been through this shit. Who is? This is a hard job,
Yeah,
man.
that's fair.
Yeah. Like, you go through it, and for a guy that's been happy for 12 straight years to have one unhappy year, I think we're all due just that.
Yeah.
But in saying that, he provided cap relief for this organization on his way out. You know what I'm saying? Got some picks sent back to the organization on his way out. And I believe in second-round picks. I got no choice but to believe in second-round picks. You know what I'm saying? So I think.
All right. So, and that was Draymond Green. Again, a Club 520 or Club 520. And again, I don't know if you're an intellectually curious person like I am. I don't even know if there's much intellectual acumen that goes into the thought process with what I'm about to explore, but I'm very curious to know what that trade was. I also don't know when this episode aired. They were talking about Jalen Brunson's new contract, obviously the Klay Thompson thing. So this happened sometime in it could have been the last week. It could have been the last 2 weeks. But we don't know what the trade was. My guess on what the trade was is it probably had to do with Kuminga. Maybe it had to do as well with Brandon Pajemski. Could be an and/or situation. But my gut feeling on this is that the Warriors approached Draymond and said, hey, look, we got this trade. I don't know who the player was. That part I have no clue about it. I don't know if, and who knows? Maybe they approached him about the Zach LaVine trade, the one that the Warriors ultimately shot down. That would have involved Andrew Wiggins and Chris Paul. It could have also been that. But again, my gut feeling tells me, and this is based off what's been this endless conflict behind the scenes with the Warriors regarding Jonathan Kuminga's value, right? You have an owner in Joe Lacob who loves him. Mike Dunleavy Jr., I have no clue what his feelings are about Kuminga, but we all know how Kerr feels. Kerr, in his mind, could live without Kuminga and be perfectly happy. We already know clearly how he feels about Moses Moody, and that's why I do think Moody's going to be gone before the start of training camp. But I'm very curious. And if you're in the chat with any suspicions yourself in terms of what that trade was, hit me up. Very curious. So, and there's people in the chat saying that's just total BS. Draymond has earned himself a legion of people who are no longer fans of his while they still claim they're members of Dub Nation. Look, I don't blame you. I mean, Draymond is the opposite Bruce Morrow of your favorite word, mercurial. But look, man, they don't win those 4 titles without him. And he does have a very high basketball IQ. He's clearly still very valued with that organization. And we'll see what happens, because I do still strongly feel there is a move to come. Speaking of which, while we're all on a holding pattern when it comes to what's expected to be a move in the near future, and Lauri Markkanen's name, Lauri Markkanen's name, we've heard about him a lot. Well, let me put the link for the chat, by the way, or the link if anyone of you wants to jump on the show today and share your thoughts. That link is now in the chat if you want to jump on. But so the Lauri Markkanen discussions, the hopeful trade is still in a what if. It's still in a holding pattern. But I thought it was interesting. The other day, this was about 2 days ago, maybe 3, ESPN has a daily program. I think it airs at 12 noon Pacific time. It's the one that Malika Andrews hosts, and, you know, ESPN's whole crew, a whole band of analysts and ex-players and so forth. You know, they're all a part of that program, just talking hoops. And Zach Lowe was on there on a recent episode. I think this was, about 2 or 3 days ago. And Zach Lowe, first of all, feels very strongly that this Lauri Markkanen deal is going to happen. I feel very strongly about it as well. Maybe August 6th is that magic date because August 6th is when Lowry is going to be eligible for a contract extension, which he's obviously going to get, and it's going to be a max deal. And who knows? Maybe when August 6th rolls around, maybe that is what they need for a sign and trade. Like that could be a possibility. Maybe Lowry Markkanen comes to the Warriors in a sign and trade with this new max deal. Because right now he's in his final year of his deal. He's making, I think, 17, 18 million a season. And maybe him making closer to 40 a season will help with a trade. That part of it, I'm not sure. I have no idea what's going on with that whole maneuvering and what's going on. But Zach Lowe thinks it's going to happen. He hinted at August 6th for the date. Leo, I'm going to get to you in just one second, I promise. But what I thought was particularly interesting is this graphic, which I'm going to share for you if you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're listening on the podcast, I'll read off to you what this graphic says. But ESPN, and I don't know if this was laziness, I don't know if this was ineptitude, I don't know if this was them foreshadowing things with something they know, although I highly doubt that. But during this segment where they're talking about the Warriors, and Zach Lowe's giving his 2 cents on Lowry Markkanen and how he thinks the Golden State Warriors will sign him. And again, I'll say this before and I'll say it again. A huge reason why I think this is going to happen is because the Warriors roster makes no damn sense the way it's currently constructed, unless you're also trying to tank for Cooper Flag while still feigning to Stephen Curry the image, the perception that you're trying to win, when in reality you're absolutely not. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't know, but this roster makes no damn sense. And the Utah Jazz are going all in for Cooper Flag next year. There's going to be about 5 teams, maybe 6, that are going to be playing that game, capture the flag. And we're talking about the Utah Jazz. We're talking about maybe the Charlotte Hornets, although they might actually be okay this year. When I say okay, I'm talking about maybe like 30 wins. Brandon Miller takes a nice leap in his progression. And but the Detroit Pistons, I think they're a safe bet for tanking. The Brooklyn Nets are a very safe bet for tanking. Is that it? Am I forgetting anyone? I mean, I don't know, maybe Portland, but the Trailblazers already have some young pieces there that will probably make them good enough to not tank all out for Cooper Flag. The point is, there's only a handful of teams out there who are going to tank for Cooper Flag. And if you're Danny Ainge, based on his history, based on what he has shown he likes to do as a GM, he has no interest whatsoever in keeping a soon-to-be 28-year-old Lowry Markkanen, who's about to get a massive contract. He has no interest in holding on to that asset, and which will jeopardize them trying to get Cooper Flag. What he wants is to flip Lowry and to get a buttload of picks and then set things up for the next 5 years. And in Danny Ainge's dream scenario, Cooper Flag is on the Utah Jazz next year. So keeping Lowry Markkanen completely interferes with that plan. It just doesn't make sense for Utah to keep him. And he does seem like a damn perfect fit for the Golden State Warriors. I'm confident. I am very confident it's going to happen. Zach Lowe echoed those similar sentiments on ESPN. But they have this graphic here, which revealed the Golden State Warriors depth chart. And Leo, thank you for being patient. I promise I'm going to get to it in 1 second. And I'm going to read to you, for the podcast listeners, what this depth chart entails. It includes, for your guards, let's split this up into 3 positions: guards, forwards, centers. For your guards, Stephen Curry, Brandon Pajemski, DeAnthony Melton, Buddy Hield, Moses Moody, two-way player Pat Spencer, two-way player Reese Beekman. Okay, that's 7 guards right there, all right? Stay with me. For their forwards, they listed Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, Kyle Anderson, and Jackson Rowe. That's an interesting one. Jackson Rowe does not have a two-way deal, was invited to training camp. And then for your centers, they listed Kevon Looney, Trace Jackson Davis, Quentin Post, who is still not signed to the team, And that's an interesting side note, because right now the Warriors have their 3 two-way spots filled. My guess is they're going to give Quentin Post one of those two-way deals. They don't have enough cap space at the moment to give Quentin Post a guaranteed contract. That's another reason why I think something else is going to happen. It makes no sense to keep this team current in their construction. And then ESPN decided to list Guy Santos as a center. Now, I've always seen Guy as a power forward type, as a Steve Kerr model of big, right? The dude's like 6'7", 6'6", but very strong, has an interior game, but he's not a center. But for those in the chat, do you notice what's wrong with this graphic? And more specifically, let me ask you this. Who is missing from this graphic? I'll give you one of them right off the bat. He's another two-way player. He does have a two-way contract right now, and that's Daquan Plowden. Not listed there. Okay, fine. He's a two-way player, was a recent signing, whatever. We can forgive ESPN for that. But the other player not listed on this graphic is Gary Payton II. Not even listed. Not even mentioned. So the question then is, either was it incompetency / ineptitude? Do they know something? Is there a bias against Gary Payton II? Why was GP2 not listed in this graphic? I can understand Daquan Plowden to a certain extent, but then why was Jackson Rowe included in this graphic? Makes no damn sense. So, yeah. Leo, are you ready? Leo Giancarlo, you're on the program, sir. How the hell are you doing? Welcome to the show. Can you hear me? I can't hear you yet.
What's up? What's up, Ty?
Hey, brother. How you doing?
I'm good. How about you?
Doing all right, man. What's on your mind, dude? Great to talk to you.
So I had a question, actually. It's pretty simple, but I was just going to say, what do you think will be the final package for Lowry if we do end up making the deal?
So here's my prediction, man. And again, if anyone tells you they know what the hell's going on, they're lying to you. No one knows outside of Danny Ainge and Mike Dunleavy Jr. and maybe the owners. But my guess is, based off Danny Ainge and his history of being a personnel guy, being a GM, the Warriors, Moses Moody's going to be shipped, right? I think that's a foregone conclusion. I feel for the kid. I love the kid. It begs the question, why did you even draft him if you never really had any plans to play him? And that leads into the whole divide between Bob Myers and Steve Kerr. But Moses Moody, man, I'm really sorry, dude.
It sucks.
It just sucks. Yeah, there's no way to spin it. So my guess is Moody's going to get traded, but ultimately this trade is going to involve a third team, and that third team is going to be there for a combination of reasons: to make salaries work, but more importantly, to get draft picks to Utah. The goal here is 4 first-round picks. The Warriors own 2 of them themselves. Who knows if Moses Moody will suffice for that third one, or if Utah does, in fact, want Brandon Podziemski or maybe Jonathan Kuminga. And then that 4th first-round pick, that's where Gary Payton II, that's where Kevon Looney, that's where Andrew Wiggins. That is where Mike Dunleavy Jr. has to do his work and get at least one more first-round pick. That's what I'm guessing is the holdup here. That's one of 2 holdups. And then the other one is that contract extension. It seems apparent that Lauri Markkanen's contract extension, where he's going to get a max deal, will probably help with the sign and trade process. I don't know for sure, man. That's the part I'm a little confused on myself, but my guess is it's not like you're probably going to see GP2, Moses Moody, Andrew Wiggins was gone, and then that Paul George trade fell apart. So, if you keep Wiggins, that's interesting in and of itself, I think. But my guess is at a bare minimum, GP2, just because Gary Payton II brings value. Like, you can get a good draft pick for him if you find a desperate team that's just missing a defensive wing. Like, GP2 has proven he can be a lockdown defender when healthy. So I think he brings the most value in terms of getting draft capital back. But it's going to be those pieces. It's Moody, GP2, Looney, Wiggins. Those are the 4 that are expendable on this Warriors roster. And I think that those are the 4 that Mike Dunleavy Jr. is trying his best to move and get back Lauri Markkanen in the process while mortgaging all of your draft capital for the next 7-8 years. What do you think, man? What's your guess, Leo?
My feel on it is I definitely don't want to move Moses Moody. Like I do want to move him, but it's just sad to see him go because I really like Moses Moody. I mean, he's a great defender, really long wingspan. He's a great shooter.
Agreed.
I think he could have been great if Steve Kerr definitely gave him some more spotlight. But I mean, with him just being like a great young player that's just not quite as valuable as Brendan Podziemski or Jonathan Kuminga, he's just the perfect moving piece. So I could definitely see why he'd go. And same thing with Gary Payton II. So I definitely see them going. Yeah.
What do you think about KB Bautista in the chat, who jumps in saying that Wiggins should be traded to Brooklyn for Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith plus picks? Now, look, if you can convince Sean Marks, who is not one of the brighter GMs in the game, he is one of many individuals that makes no damn sense in terms of staying in his job for as many years as he has, given all the incompetency and the ridiculously dumb decisions he's made. But with that said, maybe you can finagle him. But realistically, Andrew Wiggins does not have value. So you would have to include so much more to attach that with Wiggins to get something back from Brooklyn. But Leo, what are your thoughts, man? Continue on. I'm sorry.
I would love to move Wiggins. I mean, I don't see him getting like much better this year. So, and he has a big contract. So I think it'd be perfect to move him. I think the problem is just that you have to attach like a pick with Wiggins. And I don't think that's going to work if we want to get Lowry. I think if we get Lowry, we have to keep Wiggins just because, like, if we're going to move a pick, we're going to need that pick to get Lowry. So I think we're going to end up keeping him for that. But I definitely wouldn't mind moving Wiggins at all. So if we could move him on his own, like without a pick, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, I'm absolutely with you, dude. And again, the bigger question is, to me, we go back to this image here, right? And hopefully you can see this as well.
Yeah.
Like just playing off what ESPN wrote here. Okay, so the Warriors have 7 guards listed here, and they're not even including Gary Payton II. How are you going to have enough minutes for all these guys? Like Moses Moody is entering year 4. And by the way, going back to Wiggins real fast, every year since he's been on the Warriors, his scoring average has dipped every single year. He averaged 13 points a game last year. I'm totally with you, man. Unless you put him in the shooting guard position. I saw someone in the chat mention that he can't shoot the ball from outside. I agree.
Yeah, there's too many guards.
But and that goes back to too many guards, right? And so in Moses Moody, like he's entering year 4. You know, it's a shame, man. You got to move him. I mean, it's to sabotage someone's career is borderline criminal, dude. There's nothing ethical about that. And even if you take out the 2A players, I mean, Buddy Hield is going to demand minutes. DeAnthony Melton is going to demand minutes. Brandon Podziemski has to play, and it sounds like the team loves him, so he's probably going to. I don't know where the hell I just don't know how this is going to work out. Do you? I mean, do you have an answer for all this, Leo?
There's no way. I mean, this graphic here has Andrew Wiggins at the forward, and he's a guard anyways. And then it also doesn't have Gary Payton, and it also doesn't have that other 2-way player that you mentioned, whose name I forgot that was doing great in the summer. He's also a guard, right? That's 3
forward. He's 6'6", but so
okay.
I mean,
he's pretty athletic too.
Center. But yeah, you're right. Realistically, in the real world we live in,
I see it, that's still 2 more guards on this list. And 2 more guards, like, I mean, there's already so many more guards than centers. And our center is Guy Santos is the 4th one, who's like a center forward.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a center. He's not a center at all. I mean,
and even like Trace Jackson Davis isn't like a true center either. He's still like a 4.
In college he was, right? I mean, didn't he play alongside someone else? Don't quote me on that because I can't remember. But yeah, man, there's problems. There's problems here, but yeah, but the great news, Leo, and I do think this is great news, is based off what we have here, there is something else coming, man. I feel great about it.
Yeah,
and someone in the chat mentioned, oh my God, KB Bautista, look at this. I mean, we forgot about Lindy Waters. Lindy Waters has a guaranteed deal. He's playing too. God damn, man. There has to be something. There has to be. So, but someone in the chat, I want to address this real fast. And Leo, while you're with me, jump in as well. KB Bautista, who's just been on fire in the chat today. Oh, sorry. That was the one we saw earlier. Well, someone else brought up like what the backup plan is. Here it is from Galen Callahan. If Lowry Markkanen doesn't work, is Cam Johnson the backup plan? There's a few backup plans. Cam Johnson could be one of them. Jared Allen could be one of them. Time Lord from Portland could be one of them. Who sticks out to you, Leo? Is there anyone out there that if Lowry does not work out, is there anyone that you want joining the Warriors?
I definitely like Jared Allen. Just anyone with size, to be honest. Because if we could just move a guard and get a bigger position, that'd be perfect. So
Absolutely with you, dude. Anything else on your mind before I move on, brother? Did I lose you?
Oh, sorry. What was that?
I was just saying, is there anything else on your mind before we move on?
That's it. I'm good.
All right, brother. Dude, thanks for coming on, man. It was a
thank
pleasure. Thank you, dude. And Drew Thomas brings up another name as well, Kyle Kuzma. That would be such a honorable mention on the list of all the players that the Warriors desire. I don't hate Kuzma. I mean, he's got championship experience. He's 6'9". He can shoot the three. I wouldn't hate it, but the Warriors are not championship contenders with Kyle Kuzma. I mean, it's a stretch calling them contenders, even with a Jared Allen or a Cam Johnson, but at least you have a sliver of hope. With Kyle Kuzma, I don't think you even have a sliver. I think you're a playoff team. And you're better. At least you're surrounding Steph with some talent, but that's not really moving the needle, man. Anyways, just something, and and then here comes a Jazz fan in the chat. I do love this saying, Lowry is not leaving Utah. You Warriors fans are so delusional. Oh, we got a Lauri Markkanen fan. Okay, Jazz Master. I'm gonna ask you this real quick. Oh, and Damian, you're getting my full attention in just a minute because money talks. This is this is a business now for me. So please forgive any actions from my part that may come off as greedy. I'm the furthest thing from that. But Damian, I'm gonna get to you in 1 second. But Jazz Master 79, and there's a lot of Jazz fans who feel the same way. Like they love Lauri Markkanen, they don't want him going anywhere. But let me ask you this, man. Do you really think Danny Ainge is going to keep a guy that's turning 28? That with him, you were not a playoff team. And that's important to note. Okay. You've had him for 2 years. And now I'm talking to all you Utah fans out there. You had Lauri Markkanen for 2 years. And what is the most amount of games you won in either of those 2 years? What is the most amount of games Lauri Markkanen played in those 2 years? I'm highlighting his durability and lack thereof. And when has Danny Ainge ever been okay with mediocre, with average at best? Because that is what Utah is in its current incarnation. Now, let me ask you this. Do you think Danny Ainge wants Lauri Markkanen, which would rule out any real shot at getting Cooper Flagg? Or do you think Danny Ainge wants to move on from Lauri Markkanen and increase, possibly drastically, his odds of getting Cooper Flagg? I'm going to guess Ainge wants picks. All right, we're on the same page now a little bit. KB Bautista, by the way. I'm not trying to hate her team, Jazz Master. Like, I'm just trying to be pragmatic here. That's what I always try to do. Lauri Markkanen is going to go somewhere. I'm fairly confident of that. San Antonio seems like one of the other obvious destinations. They have way more resources to throw at Utah, but I also feel like if San Antonio wanted him, they would have had him by now. They seem borderline content with what they've got. They got Harrison Barnes. They got Chris Paul. Maybe Lowry and Wemby. It's a conflict. It's a redundancy. I don't know. But and then some people bring up Philadelphia. I don't think there's a chance in hell the Sixers can get Lowry. But yeah. And Die Post, I do agree with you. Cody Schnexer jumping in here with some negativity. Get Cody. I posted the link to the chat. Like, if you're gonna be coming in here with the heat, at least converse with me, man. Like, because this is utter bullshit. 90% of my material was not hating on Klay Thompson. I did Locked On Warriors for 3 years. The first year was me trying to convince a million morons out there that the Warriors were going to win the title, that they had the team in place. And then the second year, I don't remember ever hating on Klay Thompson. I remember hating on Steve Kerr for not playing Kuminga or Moody ever, and instead going with two-way clowns, Ty Jerome and Anthony Lamb. And then this past season, yeah, I was maybe a little critical, but I'll say this. I never once demanded the Warriors trade Klay, unlike a lot of other people out there. I don't agree with that assessment, man. I did not hate on Klay. I mean, if you want to be a dick about it and you just don't like me, that's fine. But I did not make an anti-Klay campaign. That is just a lie. That is facetious. That is not true. I never disliked him either. It's just, dude, his time had come. His time had come. It was time for something new. I mean, if you're going to hate on anyone about the Klay thing, hate it on the Warriors, man. I mean, they're the ones who let him go. Damian LaRoche, who I'm guessing, I don't know if you're going to be at that David Bruce thing on Sunday. If you are, I'm looking forward to meeting you. But and a huge reason for that is you bring a lot of love, you bring a lot of positivity, you bring a lot of good energy, and you bring up something that I would have forgotten to mention. And it's also, again, it's not Warriors related, but thank you for bringing up the 2,000 subs. Yes, this program has now eclipsed 2K in terms of subs. In my 3 years with Locked On, we got up to about 13. I inherited that show when it was about 1.5. So we're on the way, man. Little increments of progress is better than nothing. And Damian, you also write that, and thank you for the compliments, dude. And you also write that it tickles your pickle that Kerr is getting exposed with every game he coaches for Team USA. And then you also write that Brandon Pajemski, his style of play reminds you of 93 to 95 Suns Danny Ainge. You're talking about the Danny Ainge at the end of his career. This was after the Celtics. He still could shoot the ball at that point. I feel like he was a massive liability defensively for the Suns. But that's a fascinating reference, dude. 93 to 95 Danny Ainge. Was that his last 3 years in the league? I think it was. Yeah. So thank you for the love, brother. That's really kind of you. Thank you for paying for my coffee for the next 2-3 days. Let's see if there's anyone else in the chat that I need to address real fast. How long can I do that? All right. Something else I want to address real fast before we call it a wrap. 2 more things. One is I do want to express my colossal disappointment that the Golden State Warriors did not make a real effort to bring Brent Barry onto their coaching staff. You have been listening to me for years talk about how much I think Brent Barry would be a perfect fit as a coach for the Warriors. He has a very similar background to Steve Kerr. I mean, neither one of them had any coaching experience before getting into coaching. They both were former players. They both are former champions. Brent Barry was a far superior player. They both were broadcasters, both with TNT on their resume. And Brent Barry was hired by the Phoenix Suns to be one of their assistant coaches for Budenholzer. And look, I really hope the Terry Stotts thing works out. I hope it all works out for the Warriors. I mean, I do have a bias in favor of the Warriors. I want them to be successful, but I'm not a damn cheerleader, right? I mean, if they're doing dumb shit, I'm going to call them out for it. And Brent Barry would have been awesome as the number one assistant to Steve Kerr. He could have been groomed for the next 2 years to take over that job. And instead, the Warriors went with Terry Stotts. It's important to note as well, Brent Barry's dad is Rick Barry, one of the greatest Warriors in the history of this game. So you would have had some lineage there. But Phoenix got him. So I'm very disappointed that the Warriors didn't bother trying. And in case you ever wonder, like, what the genesis is of Brent Barry to the Warriors, where that even came from, that's not my idea. I stole that idea from Bob Myers. Bob Myers tried to recruit Brent Barry to be his assistant GM. Brent turned him down because Brent was on a fast track plan with the Spurs to eventually take over for RC Buford and become their GM. I don't know what happened there. I don't know why Brent left and why he decided to move on. Maybe San Antonio changed their plans. Brent's last position with San Antonio was being the GM of their G League team. What are they, the Austin Spurs or the Austin Toros? I forgot what their nickname is. But anyways, the Phoenix Suns got him. The Warriors get Terry Stotts. We'll see how that goes, man. I mean, Terry Stotts is not a bad coach, all right? Every year he was with Portland, they were a winning organization. But I would have personally preferred Brent Barry. I think that was a swing and a miss on their part. And yeah, you're absolutely Gingy Gawk. Absolutely right. And same with KB Batista bringing up Brent Barry in the slam dunk contest. Yeah, and the dude's a champion, man. And he's in another, this is a random piece of information. Brent Barry is the tallest of Rick's 5 sons, all of whom played professional basketball. Canyon Barry, his youngest. I wonder, I don't know. I never even thought of this. I don't know if I should bring him on, but Canyon Barry is competing in the Olympics in the 3-on-3 tournament. So that's Rick's lineage. It's absolutely impressive. It's phenomenal. I'm a little surprised that They haven't made a documentary yet on the fact that Rick produced 5 boys who all played professional basketball, but Brent was the tallest of all of Rick's sons, and I would say probably the best player out of all of them. Rico, thank you, brother. Rico Lyle's in the chat, dude. You were just, I thank you for the love. I don't know what to say about that. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and we'll call it a day here because we're at 45 minutes, is the media rights deal. And I know that has nothing to do with the Warriors, but I always nerd out on these things in terms of corporations and, just people with way too much power and way too much money and way too many resources making these massive decisions that affect so many people, because the NBA has millions upon millions of fans. And the media rights thing, I think, affects all of us, because the most popular show for the NBA is Inside the NBA on TNT. And it's looking like that program is gone, which totally sucks. So just to summarize what's been going on, the NBA has been negotiating for the last couple of years with prospective partners, right? And when we say prospective partners, that includes NBC, that includes Amazon, that includes ESPN and their parent company Disney, and that includes Warner Brothers Discovery, the parent company of TNT. And they've been having these negotiations regarding who's going to have the rights next. Supposedly, the final dollar amount that was settled on came out to nearly $80 billion that these conglomerates are spending to carry the NBA and have rights to it. But supposedly, according to the NBA, the Warner Brothers side of it is over. And what's interesting about all this, besides the fact that this upcoming season, this new media rights deal will kick in a year, right? So everything will stay the same. Everything that will continue being the status quo for this upcoming 2024-25 season. After that, if things go as what the NBA is saying, we're going to have Sunday night basketball on NBC. We're going to get the old John Tesh song back, which is cool, man. I mean, if you're on the older side of the clock, like I am, you remember the old John Tesh song. What is it called? Like round rock, round ball basketball. I forgot what it's called. But anyways, with all this, Amazon's going to get in on the action. ESPN's going to still carry the NBA Finals, but TNT's out and Warner's out. Now, the NBA has said this new deal is done. The contracts are signed. This is how it's going to look a year from now. Sorry, tough luck, TNT, but you're out. Well, TNT does not see it that way. And they've got a CEO who's got quite an ego on him, man. I forgot the guy's name. It's like Maslow or something like that. And he's the genius, and I say that sarcastically, behind eliminating the HBO brand name and going with Max, right? I mean, what the hell are you doing with that decision? You have a brand in HBO you've been carrying for like 50 years. Everyone knows what HBO is. It's a name associated with class, but you go with Cinemax, aka Max, the porn side of things, all the movies that didn't cut it, I'm sorry, for HBO. Like, that's what's going over on. That's the name you're going with, Max. It's that guy who is reportedly behind all the negotiations for TNT. And depending on who you ask, the guy's a total clown. Well, in this case, I'm trying to see if someone mentioned the guy's name in the chat. Okay, well, it's like Maslow or Oslov. I forgot the guy's name, but so this is the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery who oversees TNT. So they're deciding. I'm sorry. Yeah, and Damien, you're absolutely, dude. I mean, Cinemax was our generation's porn growing up, and if you had parents who were paying for it, and I kid you not, man, this is how TV was. Like, you could flip the channel still to Cinemax, and it would have this like fuzzy gray, white, and black stuff on your screen, but you could sometimes see through it and see a part of the picture. And so if you were like a horny little teenager like me, and if you could just see a glimpse of nudity, you're all over it, man. And that was your night and you were stoked. The point is, that's what he thought the entire new platform should be called, is Max and not HBO. I digress though. Yeah, and Damien, we're talking about Cinemax. So now TNT, however, and this is very interesting, they're not bowing down. They are not bowing down. And they published this, I believe, in a tweet. And I'm going to read to you what their statement is. This is from TNT Sports. Quote, "We have matched the Amazon offer as we have a contractual right to do and do not believe the NBA can reject it. In doing so, they are rejecting the many fans who continue to show their unwavering support for our best-in-class coverage delivered through the full combined reach of Warner Brother Discovery's video-first distribution platforms, including TNT, home to our 4-decade partnership with the league, and Max, our leading streaming service. We think they have grossly misinterpreted our contractual rights with respect to the 2025-2026 season and beyond, and we will take appropriate action. We look forward, however, to another great season of the NBA on TNT and Max, including our iconic Inside the NBA." Now, this has been reported before, unquote, I'm sorry. Now, this has been reported before that TNT supposedly had a right to match, but depending on who's producing the reports, depending on the individual actually publishing the information, some reports have come out and said that TNT never originally matched, that they were never aggressive, that they thought that it was a foregone conclusion the NBA was going to stay with them, and so they came into these negotiations lowballing and not negotiating in good faith. And then you had Amazon, who was desperate to get the NBA and made an incredible offer, and that TNT only matched at the very last minute. And if this goes to court, it's going to be very interesting because the NBA is already moving on. In the NBA's eyes, and more specifically Adam Silver, TNT, this is the swan song. This is the last dance. This is goodbye. But contracts are contracts. And if Warner Brothers Discovery did indeed have a clause that stated they could match any deal, they're going to have a say. And depending on the judge, depending on whether this even goes to jury, this is not entirely in the hands of the NBA. So I'm very curious to see what happens here. I don't know about you folks. I absolutely love Inside the NBA. I find it absolutely amazing that this program, one day a week, NBA Coast to Coast, every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, has a former host of that show co-hosting with me. I think that's insane. That is going to be forever insane to me. And I'm referring to Casey Stern, who I absolutely love. And again, Mondays at 1 p.m., NBA Coast to Coast, right here on this channel. But regardless, I don't want to see Inside the NBA gone. And it's a colossal bummer if that's a casualty of all this battling and infighting and negotiating. I will also say this about the NBA, though. The NBA wants to look forward. The NBA wants to capture this next phase of the media landscape. They want to be a part of the progressive media paradigm and not the old school one. What I mean by that is they want media partners like Amazon, who's all about streaming, who's all about apps, who's all about your phone, who's all about viral marketing. Meanwhile, Max, they're not exactly up to date in terms of technology and innovation and trends. I mean, I don't know about you folks, but I don't know how many times I've wanted to watch Inside the NBA on a recording. I wanted to see the entire episode without having to like TiVo it, right, and record it. And maybe you find segments of it on YouTube. You might find parts of it on the new Max application. But my point is, I could understand the NBA being very frustrated with having them as a media partner, considering they're not progressive, considering they're very old school. Like, you can call them analog if you want. And the NBA wants to move forward. They want to be part of what's to come and not what currently is. So very interesting to see what happens there. And I'm sorry if this was just I'm the only one interested in this stuff. I know it's not Warriors related. I did save it for the end of the show, so I hope that's okay. And Julian and Zero's asking, so from my understanding, the format is about to change. It depends. Like the Sunday night, the NBC Sunday Night Basketball, like you can watch that on your TV, but there's going to be games on Peacock. Amazon obviously doesn't have a channel of their own, so you have to open up the app to watch those games. I Amazon, from my understanding, is going to get the midseason tournament, the play-in games. Like Amazon's going to be a huge player in this. And so those games, it just depends on how you watch Amazon Prime. But that's what it's going to be on. It's kind of crazy. But I agree with you, Genji Gok, that the TNT show Inside the NBA, it's a huge part of American culture. It's also a huge part of the growth of this sport, leading to where it is now. And I don't want to see it go, man. It's one of the simplest programs, yet it's when it comes to making people laugh, at least for sports, I don't know what generates more laughter, enthusiasm. It's going to be missed. It's going to be sorely missed. I have one last thing to bring up that I forgot to mention earlier in the show, and this goes back to the Warriors. And I apologize for bringing this up so late. Better late than never. That is this clip that I want to play for you. This is Dennis Rodman, one of the greatest defenders in the history of this game, one of the greatest rebounders in the history of this game, 5-time champion, 2 with Detroit, 3 with Chicago. And while he played for the Bulls, he was Steve Kerr's teammate. And this clip came from I think a Reddit user posted this clip. And the Reddit user who recorded this, and I have no idea what the genesis, what the original idea or what the catalyst was for this question being asked. But someone asked Dennis Rodman about Steve Kerr, the coach. And why don't we hear what Dennis Rodman had to say? I thought it was interesting. So here is Dennis Rodman talking about Steve Kerr, the coach.
Dennis, you played with Steve. You still play with Steve Kerr for 3 years. He's coaching the Warriors now, having tremendous success. As opposed to Fisher, who's not so much with the New York Knicks. Did he ever give you the impression as a teammate that he could one day become a terrific coach in the NBA?
Steve Kerr ain't coaching shit. Steve Kerr's having a good time. He ain't coaching. He just having a good time. He just sitting there and let those kids shoot. That's all he's doing. He just sitting there. He ain't doing a damn thing.
So Dennis Rodman later on, he was asked about that and said he was kidding around. But behind every joke, there's some truth, right? That's the old adage. And the reason why there might be some truth in this case is because Dennis Rodman is not the first person who has echoed those sentiments that Steve Kerr is he just doesn't do much. And he just kind of is just this chill, laid back coach, which again worked brilliantly for the dynasty, right? It was what the old team clearly needed to make it work. But when you have to start developing players, when you have an NBA landscape that's evolving, being lackadaisical, I don't know if that's what you want in your head coach. And Dennis Rodman is not the only former teammate / former player of Steve Kerr's who has echoed these sentiments. Boogie Cousins has said the same thing previously. And here's what Boogie said. This was last year on a show. I don't know if he's still co-hosting this with Rachel Nichols, but this is over on Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes' show. Is it Open Smoke? All the Smoke. Anyways, so this was Boogie talking about playing for Steve Kerr, and this was last summer. Take a listen.
And I know the mood. I was a part of this organization. I know the mood. I know how they carry themselves. It's super laid back. It's super, lackadaisical. It's very nonchalant. And obviously they get their work done. They're professionals and all of these things. But these were the standards that were set in place for this team. And it starts with the leadership, which is Steve Kerr. Now we're looking for some urgency now with this team to get them back in their rhythm. And like I said, maybe it's just time for a new leadership. You know what I mean? I was a part.
You know what I mean? Yeah, I do know what you mean. So, that's just thought I'd share that with you folks because that is out there. Tomorrow morning, 11 a.m., yours truly, Damon Bruce Plus, we'll be doing a show together. Tune in. Yeah, Boogie Cousins. Now, here's the thing, KB Batista, who comes in with the chat saying, talk about a disgruntled employee, referring to Boogie Cousins, but he's not the only one. JaVale McGee feels that way. There's another big who played for. There's actually one or two other players. We've been going for an hour, so I'm starting to brain fart here. But Boogie's not the only one who has whose relationship with Kerr has kind of dissipated. And it's almost always bigs for good reason. I mean, Steve Kerr doesn't play him. So Rico Wiles, dude, you are, thank you for the love. And I appreciate it. Thank you to everyone. Again, tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Damo, Bruce. This Sunday, I don't know what the time is for the thing. We'll talk about it tomorrow morning. But Damon has his event. I'm gonna make it. It's with the Dubliner in San Francisco. So you folks can check that out. Oh, look at that, Damien, dude. What you're amazing, brother. Thank you. I almost missed this. Damien LaRoche in the chat writes, TNT needs to hawk Tua on that thing. You damn right. Dude, talk about an awesome summer phenomenon. There's always something that goes viral. It could sometimes be like a song. It could be like an individual. In this case, it was an idea. And the idea is hawk Tua, spit on that thing. And we'll leave on that note. Thank you, everyone. Damien, Rico, everyone in the chat, everyone out there, even the haters. You weren't that bad today. Thank you. And we'll be back at this soon. Tomorrow morning, in fact, 11 a.m. Thank you all. Hope you have a great rest of the Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. That's a good thing, ladies and gentlemen. Bye-bye.